Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is going to be a lot more informal. I just kind of wanted to throw this together to kind of just briefly talk about my thoughts about master mode, some things that I like, some things that I don't like, and just to kind of raise some awareness in the general StarCitizen community as to what's been going on, some things to be expecting in the future, and just kind of my overall opinion about the current state of master modes along with the current state of tuning, and to voice a few of my minor concerns and explain as to why I kind of feel that way. In the background, you'll see me playing some master modes. So just to kind of give you an idea of what we're dealing with here. But first of all, I just want to say something because I've been getting this question a lot during streams, and it's a really valid question from a lot of members of the community, as people who either are returning to the game or have been out of the seat for a while, or even veterans who've been playing the game and have started to kind of sink their teeth into the current flight system. Why are we even getting master modes? The reality is, from my position, the truth as to why we're getting master modes is one simple reason. The current flight model is too difficult for the majority of people who play the game. For StarCitizen to actually live up to what it's supposed to be, we have to have a game that's accessible to as many people as possible, and at the same time still be deep, engaging, and exciting. Now, if Master Modes delivers this promise, that's yet to be determined. From my point of view, at the moment, I'd say the current tuning does not give that deliverance, but maybe in the future it'll change. I think the best thing we can all do as a community right now is, if you have access to the Master Modes mode, which I think should be everybody, you need to play it, and play it as much as you can or as much as you're willing to stomach to get a good, valid understanding as to what's been going on. I have a big fear when it comes to Master Modes, and I'll explain why. Because I kind of have been seeing this. There's a little bit of a rhetoric coming from certain individuals in the community. And again, I'm not here to drag people in the mud or anything. I just think that there's a bit of a consensus between some members. And this consensus seems to be that, you know, Master Modes is in a really great state, and this worries me. This worries me. The reason it worries me is because obviously the current flight system is significantly more difficult. The skill ceiling is a lot higher. And going to this Master Mode system, largely what we've gone to is a movement-based, flight control system to a DPS and tank-based system that is much more dependent on whether your ship has, shields and, the right kinds of weapons. And this to me is a bit worrisome, because if we want to combat the kind of rhetoric that the gaming industry has been putting out about StarCitizen, as this game is quote-unquote pay to win, we're not really going to have a great argument against that when the game genuinely turns into pay to win. And the reason for that is because at this point now, bigger is better. And this may not be a healthy thing for the game. Now, obviously, in the current system, we have larger ships like Hammerheads and Constellations, and a lot of multi-crew ships are just not performing correctly. And I've always been a huge proponent as to, the buffing and the mechanics development to make these multi-crew ships viable in combat, while at the same time keeping the fighters in the spot where they can contribute effectively to the overall battle. I think this idea of taking the highest skill ceiling ships in the game, mainly fighters, and bringing the skill ceiling so low to the point where, everybody who walks in the door within a few minutes is able to get some shots on target, worries me a little bit, because for the game to survive, the better part of possibly even a decade, after a few months, people are going to hit that skill ceiling pretty quickly, and they're going to find that there's really not much under the table to keep them interested for the long run. Now, maybe people interested in more of a short form content, they're interested in playing Squadron 42 for the 20 or 30 hours that the game may give them, and after that they're willing to walk away and be done with it. I mean, if you're willing to appease those folks at the expense of the folks that are going to keep your persistent universe alive for the next maybe even 2 decades, I'd say that's probably a pretty bad business decision, considering the people who have kept this project alive are the really hardcore fan base who've been spending thousands and thousands of dollars. And I can't speak for everybody, but I would be very surprised if you asked anybody, no matter what profession or trade they play in the game, that a lower skill ceiling game that requires less mechanics and less depth of gameplay is the answer. Now, to say that Master Modes doesn't have depth of gameplay would also be incorrect. But the problem I think we're running into right here is the overall tuning instead of the flight model. So let me briefly explain the difference between tuning and flight model, because a lot of people ask me this question and I really want to kind of give you guys a good answer on this, because I think it's important to differentiate between the flight tuning and the flight model. That was a pretty good kill there, actually. So flight model is the fact that in Master Modes right now, what you're seeing, we have a split system between SCM speeds, or standard control mode speeds, which are around 220 for the Hornet, and boost, which brings us up to almost the 450 mark. Now, adding boost or putting boost, increasing your overall top speed, is a mechanical change. The mechanical change of pitch control compared to what we have in the live model, which is a 45. Now, the difference between that is if I want to turn my nose onto my target as fast as possible, I need to orientate my target in the vertical slice of my targeting reticle so that I can pull my nose onto target. So I'm pulling my nose up like here. I'm pulling my nose up onto target with a proper orientation, and I'm guns on. In live, that highest turn angle actually comes from the top right or the top left of your screen. It's actually coming from the angles of the turn rather than the pure pitch and the pure pitch. So mechanically, we've defined the differences between some of the differences between Master Modes and the live service game that we have now. And my gripe is with the tuning. I'm happy with Master Modes in terms of its model. I'm happy with the cone fire that we're switching to compared to live's what's called fixed assist, which means the bullets will automatically gimbal at about 1.5 degrees once you achieve the quote-unquote perfect firing solution on live. But that leads to all kinds of problems, which you've probably seen me on live streams, and if you haven't, ask me and I'll demonstrate it, about staying out of range of an enemy ship and doing small corkscrew motions, causing the quote-unquote perfect solution to always be wrong, allowing me to kind of permanently kite and stay at range and still hit larger vessels while them never able to hit me. This solution is fixed with cone fire, which you can see here on this Hornet, where there's a saturation of bullets in an area that even if one of the bullets misses, there's about 5 or 6 behind you that are all slightly off target, but eventually you're going to get some bullets on target. So you're basically just filling the box with as many bullets as you can. And the closer you get, obviously, the more those bullets are going to saturate and hit the target. But at least you're doing some damage at longer ranges. Whereas with with the live service game we have now, you're either hitting 100% of your shots or you're hitting none, and that's a problem. Okay, so let's just briefly talk, guys, about the tuning, because this is my whole shtick. This is what I'm really passionate about. This is where I feel like Master Modes needs to seriously, tend to shake its head and make a serious change here before we kind of go down a road that we aren't really going to enjoy in the long run. Understand that this is my opinion. It's based off of many years of combat experience in the game, in PvE and PvP. I've played every iteration of StarCitizen. I think at this point I've got well over 10,000 hours. So it's coming from a place of genuine love for this game, and coming from a place of genuine understanding as to what feels good in my opinion and what maybe they need to consider. So first and foremost, we currently in 322 live, we have about, let's see here, 220 meters per second SCM speeds and 400 something on the Hornet in terms of its boost afterburner speeds. Now, I don't like this. I think, the reduction in overall top speed in SCM has dramatically reduced the ability for us to kind of pick our position in the fight, and to work an angle and to actually get in and start damaging people. Without having the speeds high enough, we can't really do any kind of maneuvers like hooking maneuvers because we don't have the space to do it. The only way we can have that space to do it is to just hold the boost down the whole time. But with asymmetric boost directions, we're kind of limiting ourselves in weird ways, and it just doesn't really feel good. And as soon as you let go of that boost, your vector basically locks and it brings you back down to SCM speed, and you basically can't maneuver until you're back down to SCM. But even at SCM speeds, the big problem I find is you just simply cannot, and I really truly mean this, you cannot make enough deflection angles to avoid any kind of fire in any meaningful way. You might be able to shake about 10 to 20% of somebody's mag, but look at this, look at this here, look at this turn. There is absolutely no getting away from whoever's chasing you. And especially if you're getting, third partied or someone's 2v1ing you, the chance of you winning that fight now is, it really is zero. Like you just can't do it. This situation here, we're kind of moving in on this Hornet. And again, we're not missing anything. Even though we're nose off for a half a second there, we're back on target. We're doing as much damage as we can. He's in SCM speed, and you can see clearly, like, he just has absolutely no speed. So, with the overall top speeds of SCM being as low as they are, I think it's a detriment to the overall health of the game. And if fighters are moving this slow, it feels like we went from, DCS, it's just Digital Combat Simulator, which is one of the most realistic sim flight combat jet games in the world, if not the most realistic. Flying F-22 Raptors and, in Typhoons at Mach 2, really feeling like we're riding the edge of what's possible, to jumping into a biplane on World War I and just feeling like you're pulling at your seat, like trying to go faster. And it just doesn't feel good, and I don't want to get conspiratorial and all that stuff, but it just feels like they're turning StarCitizen into a console game. And that's not what I signed up for. I've been a huge passionate, member of this project since the very beginning. And I've wanted to play a game where I can play with my joysticks, no pun intended, and have a good time, feel like I'm a hotshot pilot, put the time in, and feel like I'm learning something, years down the road, because the skill ceiling is so deep that I can really kind of get into it. We have that with the current model to some degree, but because they're no longer working on the current model we have, we're moving to master modes, which again, fixes a lot of core issues that I think, need to get fixed. But, we need to see speeds go up. It just has to happen. Because if we don't have the speeds come up on SCM, then we have, the issues we're having here in master modes, where you basically, once you're out of your boost, you're basically dead in the water. You have absolutely no control of the battlefield at all. You have no speed, no chance of getting away from fire. And whoever brings more numbers to the field is really what's going to win the fight. And this makes me a bit sad, and I know people give me the same kind of rigmarole. They're like, oh, well, Avenger, you're a hotshot dogfighter pilot, and you want the game to be a certain way. And I understand that I do have a bias towards high skill ceiling gameplay, but there is a big difference between dropping the skill ceiling to make it easier and more accessible to new pilots, and making it easier and more accessible while maintaining a really deep, rich, and engaging form of combat. And again, this whole mentality of fighters should be the easy, beginner ships. And I think that's actually the opposite. I think beginning vessels, ships that people start off on, should be the bigger ships, should be Constellations, Freelancers, Drake Cutlass Blacks. Those are your beginner ships, especially if you have some friends who'd like to come in and join you, jump on a turret, do some engineering. Look at this, for example. This Hornet is quote unquote moving his 6 degrees of freedom, but he's causing, there's absolutely no deflections going on. He's strafing and doing what he can, but there's absolutely no deflection going on. I'm just sitting on top of him, feeding him full of shots, and it's really, it gets a little depressing for us, I guess you could say, us ace pilots out there, right? And before you say it, I really believe this. The problems that the ace pilot and PvP community in StarCitizen are facing now will become your problems 6 to 9 months to a year down the road when StarCitizen releases. because the rookies today will be the ace pilots of tomorrow. And if that change, if that distance between rookie pilot and, you know, significant PvP player, or even, you know, really competent PvE shooter is only, you know, a few days or like a week or two, how is that going to keep you interested in the game long term? And this is what I've always kind of been sitting is you got to create a game that's deep and engaging. And in order for that to happen, we need to have higher movement speeds. We need to have higher SCM. So thank you for listening to my rant, guys. Let me just explain. If I was sitting in a chair, this is exactly what I would do, okay? Because I don't just want to give my opinion and say, hey, you know, it's not up to standard and just poo-poo everything, because I think the guys that are working on the project are doing a really, really, really good job. And I think the guys that are also, you know, doing the tuning balance and stuff are coming from a good place. They're coming from a place where they want to see skill-based gameplay, you know, stay in Star Citizen. I think Chris Roberts wants his game to be deep and engaging years and years into the future, so people keep coming in and really enjoying themselves, because ultimately we don't have a skill-based environment like EVE Online where you train quote-unquote dogfighting to level 5 and you get more damage on target. You know, what we have to do here is create an experience where you as the person play the game and get to a point where the more you play it, the better you get, the better you understand it. Reduce the knowledge skill ceilings and increase the physical skills, so that actual application of damage onto targets, throttle control, positioning, angle management, like space combat geometry, your trigger discipline, power management, heat control, you know, energy control, all these things together make you an absolutely tremendous player on the field. You know, we got to keep that, because that's going to keep people interested in this game for a long time. It's going to make Squadron 42, you know, the best game it could be. If we make it so that every casual who wants to play the game jumps in and immediately becomes Luke Skywalker within a few days, you know, I just don't see that being healthy for the game long term, right? So here's what I would change. Okay, so now that we've seen lots of, master modes combat, we're going to briefly go right here into normal, I guess you could say the live service game. You'll see the difference in combat flow here. But anyway, what I would change is I would take SCM speeds from 220, which is what they're at now, roughly, plus or minus, depending on if it's a Buccaneer or Gladius. And I would bring all the speeds up until around the 400 minimum. For the slowest ship, the Vanguard, you want to sit at 400. And for the faster ships like the Gladiuses, you want to be sitting around the 480 to 500 mark. And I think that boost should only affect the forward momentum. So if I turn around, so if I boost up to 400 meters per second, and then I'm decoupled, I spin around on top of myself, and I start shooting at the guy that's chasing me, I should still maintain my 400 meters per second. But if I start boosting to push away from him, if he's pushing onto me, that's a problem. I won't be able to go above that 400, which is the asymmetric boost system we have in Master Modes, which fixes the whole kiting problem we have in the current service live game, which is what you're seeing here, right? Allowing boost to only be affected at the forward, like if I only want to move forward, then I get the extra 200 meters per second. I go up to 600, but only if I'm facing towards my target and I'm boosting towards them. We still need to keep 6 degrees of freedom combat gameplay in the 500 meter space, like in that space, because that way we have enough speed to feel fast. We have enough throttle control to keep the skill and depth of gameplay. And now with Conefire, we've fixed all our fixed assist problems to get a much better gunnery experience. And so we're moving to a much better state of game. And with the input control thruster ramp up that we have in Master Modes now, we've eliminated most of the wiggling problem that we have in live. So bring the speeds up, minimum slowest ships to 400, faster ships like the Gladius sitting at around the 480, 500 mark on SCM, and, have boost affect acceleration and top speed, but only in the forward direction. And get a better power management system in. We need a better power management system. I've been a huge believer, guys, and this is just my opinion, but I think really strongly that what we really need here is we need a power management system that makes sense. If I switch my power to 100% engines, I should just get inherently higher top speeds and a slightly higher boost because I've put all my power into engines, and this allows for really interesting kind of gameplay. The choice you make for power management matters. What you do with it matters. I think that's really, really important. So increase speeds, get a better power management system that affects your stats in a meaningful way, and take it from there. At the very least, we need to try this tuning out. I think at the very least, CIG should try this tuning, put those speeds, like I'm saying, higher, bring it up to the 500 meter mark for the faster ships, boosting up to 650, but only in the forward direction. And let us have it, and let us play around with it. Let us see how it feels, and get feedback on it. But that's that's really what it comes down to. Anyway, guys, sorry this took 20 minutes, but I had to get this off my chest. A lot of people have been asking these questions, and I've been kind of going back and forth on whether or not I want to make a video about this, because Master Modes is in such a transitory state. I've made Spectrum posts about this, but I think what's really important here is the education of the general audience, to kind of help you guys that are coming in the door, that when you get your hands on Master Modes, really give it a good shake. Tell me how it feels, and please understand that if the game is too easy to pick up and too easy overall, you as the player will suffer in the future. So you may grab Master Modes now, and it feels good. It sure will feel a hell of a lot better than the live game that we have, because the skill ceiling is so much lower. So you're gonna get some success. And what I worry about is a lot of the rookie players, or players that are really not interested in getting deep into combat, are going to play Master Modes and be overwhelmed with how much easier it is, and just give it the big thumbs up. And if enough people give it the thumbs up who maybe don't really understand deeply enough what's going on, then you're sacrificing a much deeper, richer experience that you could have for a much longer time, at the expense of short-term kind of in, out, bing, bang, boom, just another summer game, and then you're off to play something else for the next, I don't want to see that happen to Star Citizen. I want to see Star Citizen really become the game it's supposed to be. I want this game to be the game that all of us play on a daily, weekly basis, that we can play all these other games, but we always come back to Star Citizen. This is our game, So that's the place I'm coming from. Please understand that I don't say these opinions lightly. I've given these a tremendous amount of thought. I care very deeply about the CIG team that's working on this. I really think you guys are doing a great job. This is just my opinion. Please take it to heart. If you have any questions, please contact. And for everyone watching, guys, thank you for letting an honest Canadian ramble on about his space game he loves so much. But thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, the Twitch, everything we do here at the channel, and the education process we have to hopefully get as many people invested into Star Citizen combat as we can. Take a look at our core skills playlist on YouTube if you'd like to get better at the current system we have in live, and be excited and stay frosty, because we're going to have a brand new core skills system coming out once Master Modes finalizes. But until then, keep flying. Have fun, and I'll see you out there.